With Ninjago ended, a lot of fans are in tears. I know how you feel, guys. When my favorite LEGO theme, Adventurers, was cancelled, I felt the same way. But Johnny Thunder still lives because of the people who write about him. And trust me, I do not think the ninja are in any danger of losing fans who write stories about them. The trick to writing good fan fiction? Being able to back up what you're writing using things from the series, real-life information, and your own experiences. So here's me, Scarheart, divided into LEGO knowledge, creative side, and researcher, here to show you what I've applied in my own fanfictions, and to give you Ninjago fans out there some ideas on where you can start writing. Note, this episode contains scary images that may not be suitable for small children. Ninjas are Japanese. Before the Edo period in Japan, they were assassins trained to be quick and unseen, something our heroes may need a bit more practice on. As a result, it's only appropriate to add a little bit of Japanese culture to Ninjago, in my opinion. I'm not saying to completely wrap them up in Japanese culture, though if you know enough about Japanese culture and want to, I can't stop you. But Japanese stories can be a great influence on what you have the ninjas face. Small pieces of Japanese culture, such as cuisine and manners, can make the story more interesting. So I'm going to teach you guys a little bit about what I've learned about Japan. This hopefully will give you a few ideas. And before anyone asks, I don't know if the plural form of ninja is ninjas or just ninja. I've heard it done both ways. First of all, there's Japanese legends and folklore. Japan has some of my favorite legends, such as the Grateful Crane, and what's more, there are tons of monsters you can send the ninjas to fight. So let's dive into my book on Japanese mythology. By the way, I'm not going to go over every creature. In fact, I'm only going to go over a couple. If I went over every creature, we'd be here for days! So let's start out with fox spirits. Unlike in Western folklore, where foxes are just tricksters, in Japanese folklore, they take on a much darker form. In Japanese myths, there's a form of demonic possession called Kitsune Tsuki, in which Japanese fox spirits enter and possess people, putting them under an evil influence. This is normally said to happen to low-class women. Now, I don't know the economic status of the ninjas, or, come to think of it, how they earn money. Geez, I just realized how many mouths Sensei Wu has to feed. I really hope that guy doesn't plan to retire anytime soon. But anyway, arguably, Nia could prove to be a candidate for Kitsune Tsuki, forcing the ninjas, particularly Kai and Jay, to have to save her. Okay, I'm sure anyone who knows a lot about Japan is expecting me to mention this, so let me bring this up now. Kappas. Kappas are river creatures said to look like a cross between a turtle and an ape. Yeah, I have a hard time wrapping my head around this too, but who am I to question another country's folklore? So let's just smile and learn what we can. Kappas are very fierce, but they're also very polite, and will bow back if you bow to it. This will cause the water in the bowl-like shape on its head to spill out, rendering it beatable. Though it's considered bad luck to defeat one, so honestly, if the ninjas come across one, I suggest they just spinjitzu out of there. Now, since treasure hunting is also a fairly big theme in Ninjago, if you want to have them go after a treasure, the first thing that comes to my mind would be the ebb and flow jewels. The ebb and flow jewels, also known as the tide jewels, are a set of jewels that can make the sea fierce or calm, depending which one you use. The Empress Jingo supposedly used them to conquer what is today Korea, making the sea too fierce for her enemies' boats. Now when it comes to Ninjago, I think you know exactly what boat comes to mind. Destiny's Bounty. If the ninjas found these jewels, or better yet, had the jewels bestowed onto them as the Empress was, these sailing trips would be much easier. Of course, Ninjago is only in ancient Japan in the prequel episodes. The rest of the series is much more modern day, with large skyscrapers, video games, cell phones, and cappuccino makers. As the result, you may prefer the ninjas to go after an urban myth rather than an ancient legend. Japan has their own set of them, as I suspect every country does. Some of you may recall a comedic fanfiction I wrote, where Sidicus and Scalador meet a ghost called Hanako-san. Lloyd explains in the fanfiction that Hanako-san is a ghost that you can summon in a girl's restroom in a school. The actual urban legend goes over many variations on how to summon her and what happens if you do. This was just my take on it. Obviously, it's okay to tweak them a little bit to work for your story. Sadly, the only other Japanese urban legend that I know about is the slit-mouthed woman. The legend varies on how her mouth got as it is, but the basic legend goes that a person meets up with a woman wearing a medical mask. She asks the person if they think that she is beautiful. After the person responds, she removes her medical mask, revealing her face, and asks again. If you say yes, she kills you. If you say no, she kills you. If you say you're average looking, she gets confused and you get a chance to escape. How'd you like the ninjas to run into her? There are other smaller things you can do to make the ninjas more Japanese if you wish. Have Sensei Wu dress in a kimono rather than a robe. Have Kai use a katana rather than a sword. Look into some Japanese holidays that the ninjas might celebrate. Have the ninjas eat teriyaki chicken rather than fried chicken. Simple stuff like that. Oh, and use chopsticks. Of course, Ninjago itself isn't pure Japanese culture. It also has some American culture, such as most of the ninjas' names, and Jay's parents having Minnesota accents. They also make some references to Chinese culture. The stone warriors that they have to face, for example, are clearly referencing the terracotta warriors from China. However, if you plan to mix them, please don't call it Asian. I'm English myself, and I would hate it if someone mixed English and French culture, for example, and just called it European. It's not how it works, and it's extremely offensive. Also, there are references to Lego fan subculture, too. Remember how Cole mentions that one of the Fang Blades was found by Clutch Powers? Clutch Powers is the title of a character of a movie Lego produced a few years ago. There are other examples, but this is starting to get long. My point is, you're free to add in other subcultures that you know about too. Who knows what the ninja are going to run into after all. The only thing I would recommend in the very end is that if you use a culture that you personally are not a part of, research as hard as you can. Otherwise, you could easily end up offending someone. So happy writing and happy culture discovering. Join me next time when I dive into the saddest thing you can do in your fanfictions, if you do it correctly. Should we have mentioned that the reason we don't have English accents is the person we represent came to America before she learned to talk? I don't think it's a big deal. People who question the accent won't believe us anyway. Yeah, no need to over-explain at this point.